Squidward is one of the most unpleasant, grumpy characters in the whole show, but maybe he just needs some help, professional help. Our first episode, Squid's Day Off, sees our favorite grumpy octopus losing his mind, and all because he dared to take a day off work. The episode starts with Squidward absolutely hating life because it's Sunday, and somehow he's stuck working at the Krusty Krab, which, by the way, is totally empty because it's Sunday. To make things even worse, SpongeBob is ding-ding-dinging the service bell like it's a game, which is driving Squidward up the wall. Squidward's like, "Bro, chill out, no customers, no orders, no reason for the bell." But of course, he's so worked up that he slams the cash register and the thing pops open, coins flying everywhere. He should probably see someone for those anger issues. Anyway, Mr. Krabs storms out of his office because obviously money's involved and in danger. Squidward's on the floor trying to clean up the mess, and Krabs pushes him aside like, "Out of my way!" so he can wash his precious coins under the faucet like they're his babies. But when SpongeBob startles Krabs, he drops a dime down the drain, and instead of letting it go like a normal person, he jams his claw down the pipe to save it. Big surprise, he gets stuck. Turns out pipes are not made to fit claws. Now, SpongeBob's trying to help, but of course, yanks too hard and Mr. Krabs goes flying, hits the wall, knocks some stuff loose, and out like a light he goes. So Mr. Krabs is getting hauled off to the hospital and hands the keys to the Krusty Krab to Squidward, who, seeing this shot at freedom, dumps all the responsibility on SpongeBob and books it, claiming he's got some important boss stuff to do. Pretty smart move, honestly. He's feeling good until his paranoid brain starts imagining SpongeBob screwing everything up, like giving Patrick all the money in the register for a quarter. So what does Squidward do? Freaks out and rushes back, only to find SpongeBob doing everything perfectly. Of course, Squidward's not convinced and goes back home trying to relax again, but no, Squidward's mind is like, what if SpongeBob's burning the whole place down? So off he goes again, only to find everything totally fine. Again. This cycle repeats over and over until Squidward's sanity is absolutely circling the drain. The guy's losing it so bad he literally welds himself inside his own house. But that SpongeBob laugh haunts him even in his relaxing bath time. So now Squidward's gotta get to work to end this nightmare once and for all. He finally busts into the Krusty Krab only to find SpongeBob still there, cool as a spongy yellow cucumber. And to make it worse, it turns out the closed sign was never flipped to open, so they could have just taken the day off. Squidward's brain basically gives up at this point, his head deflating like a balloon as SpongeBob laughs his ridiculous laugh. Pretty accurate visual depiction of what goes on in Squidward's mind on a daily basis. But instead, he's forced into horrible situations that he only manages to make significantly worse, like in Graveyard Shift. It's the end of a long day at the Krusty Krab, and Squidward's already mentally checked out, but then when is he not? Dude's ready to close up shop and get the hell out of there, but of course this random guy strolls up right at closing time wanting food. Squidward's like, "Nope, we're closed, see ya." But as soon as the guy walks away, Mr. Krabs gets that money-hungry glint in his eye and boom.
Fine, if you don't want my money.
Money? You mean, if we stayed open later, you'd give us your money?
Sure.
Rips the closed sign in half and declares they're open 24/7 now. Squidward's pissed, but Krabs doesn't care and leaves him and SpongeBob to deal with the chaos. Only the boss gets to sleep. SpongeBob's annoyingly stoked to work all night, but when it's time to take out the trash, he freaks out because it's dark and creepy outside. He eventually just throws the trash out, screaming the whole time, then acts like it's no big deal. Squidward, sensing weakness or an opportunity,
"So you're not afraid?"
decides to mess with him. He cooks up this whole creepy story about a hash-slinging slasher, some poor fry cook who lopped his own hand off and now haunts the Krusty Krab every Tuesday night, hell-bent on revenge. And guess what? It just happens to be Tuesday. Squidward's cackling while SpongeBob's over there losing his mind, scared out of his mind. But when SpongeBob keeps screaming,
Oh, right.
Squidward has to tell him the story was fake.
SpongeBob, I was joking!
It's gonna get too annoying to deal with a scared sponge. Hours pass, it's dead silent, and Squidward's still grumbling about how dumb it is to keep the Krusty Krab open this late. Meanwhile, SpongeBob's cleaning the ceiling like a psycho. Suddenly, the lights start flickering and Squidward's like, "Okay, SpongeBob, knock it off." But when he realizes nobody's touching the switch, he's like, "Oh, that's not good." "No, it's not, man. You're losing your mind. Again." The phone rings, but no one's there when he picks up, which makes things even freakier. Squidward's sweating now, trying to remember the third sign of the hash-slinging slasher, when of course, a bus pulls up outside and this creepy dude with glowing red eyes and a spatula steps off. Squidward's full-on screaming at this point, and for once it's out of terror, not rage. After all of the drama, it turns out it's just some nervous guy looking for a job. SpongeBob's asking him for references while Squidward's still freaking out about the unexplained lights turning on and off. He genuinely thinks he's losing his tiny, tiny mind. And then, because why not just complicate this whole episode with a random side joke, Nosferatu shows up, flicking the lights like it's a game. He's just smiling like a troll, and boom, end of episode. I think I need therapy after that ending. Ideally, so does Squidward, but he won't bother. He has so many better things to do. Like in Squidward in Clarinet Land, in which Squidward gets pulled into an acid trip world full of clarinets and clarinet-related creatures. Alright, so we open on Squidward having the best damn day of his miserable life. He's got this clarinet recital coming up, and nothing's gonna ruin it. Well, SpongeBob will, but that's a given. Nothing else is going to ruin it.
Not a problem at all.
Dude's got his clarinet safe in a suitcase, so he's basically skipping into the Krusty Krab, convinced nothing bad will happen to him today. But, of course, life's gotta slap him in the face. Literally. First, some guy with god-awful morning breath practically punches Squidward in the nose. Then someone slams the door on him, but hey, as long as the clarinet's good, Squidward's good. And the clarinet is very good. He sucks at playing it, but it's fine. Everything is fine. That is until some mom shows up with her baby and the little gremlin drools all over his precious clarinet. Squidward freaks the hell out and storms up to Krabs demanding a place to store his stuff where babies and jerks won't get at it. Mr. Krabs, being cheap as always, gives him this janky old Navy locker, and of course, SpongeBob cleans the whole thing out like it's some five-star hotel and not a greasy fast food locker. So Squidward stashes his clarinet in there, thinking it's safe from the chaos that unfolds every single day at the Krusty Krab. But every time he turns around, SpongeBob's messing with the locker, doing who knows what to it. Probably something colorful. Exactly what Squidward hates. Squidward's paranoia kicks in, and now he's convinced SpongeBob's up to no good. He can't take his eyes off the locker. He's so distracted, he drops some change while giving it to a customer. And Mr. Krabs, being the money-obsessed lunatic he is, jumps out and scares the crap out of everyone just to snatch up the loose coins. Squidward is this close to a mental breakdown at this point, but he can't stop thinking about it. He needs answers. So Squidward crawls inside the locker to see what SpongeBob's been doing, and surprise, SpongeBob's turned it into a whole room. Somehow. Then the next thing you know, Squidward's clarinet is gone. Gone! The worst nightmare for any mid-clarinet player. He knows SpongeBob moved it somewhere, so Squidward crawls through this tiny door and ends up in some weird-ass clarinet forest. And there's this huge eagle head calling itself the Keeper of Clarinet Land. Sometimes you just have to let the SpongeBob episodes wash over you and not question this stuff. The Keeper's lecturing Squidward about respecting clarinets and how they can't be owned, and Squidward's like, sure, I get it. But the Keeper's not buying it and swallows him whole. Admittedly, that will be hard to explain to a therapist. Now, Squidward's chasing SpongeBob through a giant pinball machine where a massive Patrick says it's all because of a giant vacuum cleaner? Yeah, I don't even know how to unpack that one, I'll be honest. The vacuum sucks Squidward up, blows up, and the next thing you know, Squidward's literally chasing SpongeBob through space. Finally, he catches him and ends up right back in the locker where it's revealed the whole thing was some messed up dream. Squidward is seriously mentally damaged if that's what he's dreaming about. At the end, SpongeBob's like, oh, by the way, I had your clarinet the whole time, as if it's some funny joke. Squidward, pissed beyond belief, locks SpongeBob in the locker as payback. But then at his recital, he opens the case and boom, SpongeBob's inside like Houdini. Squidward freaks out and bolts off stage before he can find out that SpongeBob was just bringing him the clarinet. Come on, man. There's like a million better ways to do it than to put your friend into an asylum. Although, on second thought, that might actually be a better place for Squidward. At least he would have an outlet for all of his rage and psychotic meltdowns that isn't terrible art, as shown in Artist Unknown. Alright, so Squidward's all hyped up, thinking he's about to mold a bunch of adults into master artists at this art class he's teaching at the Adult Learning Center. He opens the doors all smug and ready to show off, but everyone's just there for the cooking class. Literally, the entire room clears out except for SpongeBob, of course. Great, just what Squidward wanted, a moron. So Squidward reluctantly starts the class with his one student.
If I'm lucky, Mr. Talent will rub his tentacles on my art.
He tries to teach SpongeBob the basics, like how to draw a simple circle. Squidward draws this janky, lopsided excuse for a circle, which really confirms how useless he is at basically anything artistic. But when SpongeBob gives it a go, boom, perfect circle. Like, what the hell? Squidward's stunned, so he demands SpongeBob explain how he did it, and SpongeBob casually draws this hyper-realistic human head, then erases everything but the circle. Squidward's brain practically explodes. How is this kid so talented and so stupid? Squidward crumples upon SpongeBob's paper like a kid, but SpongeBob turns that crumpled paper into an insane origami sculpture of him and Squidward playing leapfrog. Damn, that's gonna stick with Squiddy. Squidward rips that to shreds, but SpongeBob's like, no problem, and creates another masterpiece from the scraps. Seriously, even therapy is going to struggle with helping him get past this. But then it's time for chiseling. Squidward tries to flex his skills, but ends up with a pile of rubble. Meanwhile, SpongeBob, with one tap of a mallet, carves Michelangelo's David out of a chunk of marble. Squidward's jealous as hell by his effortless skills, but refuses to admit SpongeBob's got talent. Convinced that he's a terrible artist, SpongeBob gets super bummed and throws himself into the trash, literally, and ends up in a dumpster being hauled away to the dump. Usually this would be a dream outcome for Squidward. But now he's feeling guilty. Also, he has no more students. So Squidward decides to shut down his class. But then, this fancy art collector, Monty Moneybags, shows up looking for pieces for his museum. Squidward shows him the art he's created, but Moneybags has taste and isn't impressed, calling it as it is, total crap. But when he spots SpongeBob's David, he's all over it. And rather than telling the truth, Squidward takes credit. But while hauling the statue to Monty's car, Squidward knocks off David's head. Whoops. Monty's like, no biggie, just make another one, and leaves. Easy. Oh, wait.
Bye. I gotta fight SpongeBob!
So now a desperate Squidward hunts SpongeBob down at the dump and convinces him to come back and make another masterpiece. But thanks to Squidward's earlier crappy lessons, SpongeBob can't produce anything decent anymore. He's abandoned his own talents to be more like Squidward. He tries chiseling, but the marble just turns into rubble. Squidward goes absolutely crazy, smashing everything in sight. Once again, those anger issues are back. SpongeBob figures Squidward just couldn't handle his genius and peaces out, heading back to the dump. When Moneybags comes back and sees the mess, Squidward blames the janitor.
As of now, it's his responsibility.
But here's the kicker. Squidward accidentally sculpted an even better statue of David in his fit of rage. Moneybags loses it, calling the janitor the greatest artist ever. I bet the janitor has a more stable mental state, though.
Dude, you're teaching art at the rec center. Calm down.
Unlike Squidward in Professor Squidward, an episode where he basically lies his way into teaching a class just because he hates Squilliam. So Squidward's sitting there, stewing with hatred, watching his arch nemesis Squilliam freaking fancy pantsin play the clarinet at some fancy concert. Squilliam's all smug, as per usual, soaking in the applause, and Squidward can't bear it. When the show's over, Squidward storms out, only for some clueless headmistress to stop him, thinking he's Squilliam. Now, Squidward does try to correct her, but when she mentions that Squilliam could teach a college music class, Squidward's like, screw it, I'm in, and totally pretends to be his frilly-browed rival. Even the worst therapist would look at this as a red flag. Next thing you know, Squidward's strutting into this college class with a ridiculous wig, ready to show off. He's barely 2 minutes in, and some brat's like, "Aren't you gonna write your name on the board?" Squidward's already had it with these idiots, so he tells the kid to write it for him. Boom, problem solved. He's getting away with it. Mistake number 1, Squidward. In barges SpongeBob and Patrick, because these two knuckleheads can't possibly leave Squidward alone for more than 5 minutes. SpongeBob almost blows Squidward's cover right away, but Squidward's quick on his feet, telling him to call him Professor Squilliam from now on. Like that's gonna make things less chaotic. Mistake number 2, Professor. So, class starts and SpongeBob's already giggling like a maniac. Squidward asks what the hell is going on, and SpongeBob's like, "Oh, Patrick's tickling my foot." But no, Patrick's just sitting there tickling his own foot. They're somehow psychologically linked in idiocy. Squidward moves them apart, SpongeBob on one side, Patrick on the other, but SpongeBob keeps laughing, and this time Patrick is tickling his foot. Squidward's losing it. Honestly, most of his psychological issues can be chalked up to these two. Later, Squidward tries to teach musical scales by drawing lines on the board, and Patrick's like, "Hey, that looks like a railroad track I saw once." He starts babbling about a train convention and even pulls out a mini locomotive like it's a show and tell. Next thing you know, Patrick's tiny and riding the train around the classroom and eventually ends up in the trash. How does he end up in the trash can? Who knows, man, but he's back in his seat like nothing happened, so I guess literally none of this matters. Squidward, his sanity hanging on by a thread, tries to teach about metronomes, but SpongeBob and Patrick get hypnotized by the ticking. To make things worse, a news reporter shows up wanting to interview Squilliam, but ends up way more interested in SpongeBob and Patrick's trance, which is a way better story. Squidward's about to snap. All he can do is kick the guy out. If he killed him, this would be a very different video.
Wow! You're not going anywhere.
Then the cops show up with the headmistress and, oh look, the real Swilliam Fancyson. The headmistress mocks Squidward for being an obvious fake, points out his lack of unibrow, and Squidward gets arrested for impersonating a genius. Meanwhile, SpongeBob and Patrick are still stuck in their weird metronome trance, ticking away like nothing happened. Squidward's probably pretty happy that his mental state is better than theirs, though. Unfortunately for him, the next episode has Squidward merging with SpongeBob. It's kind of his worst nightmare. Squidbob Tentacle Pants. The episode kicks off with Squidward dreaming he's some kind of musical god, but as usual, reality kicks him in the face when his alarm clock goes off, pulling him back to his miserable Krusty Krab-centric life. Basically, he's depressed as hell. But he's got this big performance tomorrow, so he's practicing his clarinet like his life depends on it. SpongeBob's all, "Why are you playing that thing?" Squidward's like, "I got a gig tomorrow, mind your own business, you yellow pain in my ass." He doesn't say that, but you know, he means it. So SpongeBob's off to visit Sandy, who's working on some teleportation machine. Naturally, SpongeBob wants to test it out. She zaps him over to the Krusty Krab, but surprise, part of Squidward's arm gets stuck inside SpongeBob during the process. Let's not ask why or how or really anything about that. Suddenly, the remote control fries, and the two of them are fused together like some weird cursed human centipede situation, only not as gross. Sandy freaks out, but SpongeBob's over here like, "Yay! We're together forever!" And Squidward's ready to rip his own damn head off. Sandy's all, "Don't worry, I'll fix it," and proceeds to zap them across the universe. School, hospital, random planet. But guess what? They're still stuck together everywhere they go. So now Squidward's panicking because he's got that performance tomorrow and he's attached to his worst nightmare. It's destined to fail. They try to roll into work on a bike, but it's a disaster. They crash into the kitchen and Mr. Krabs just shrugs it off like, "Yeah, whatever, just get to work." But of course they can't, so Krabs kicks them out until they fix their problem. He doesn't care about their health or well-being, he's not making money. They head over to Sandy's hoping that she's worked out how to fix them. She's created a new device, a molecular separator ray, but it isn't ready yet. She promises it will be done tomorrow, but that is not comforting to Squidward. He has the concert tomorrow. They wait for her to deliver the fix, but Sandy never shows up. And SpongeBob knows that Squidward cannot miss his chance to be a star. Squidward is in the worst position of his life. He's basically a legal SquarePants at this point. So they come up with a solution-ish. The next day, Squidward's trying to play his clarinet at the performance with SpongeBob hidden under a cloak. Obviously, that goes wrong when a nail yanks the cloak off, revealing their grotesque situation. But the crowd's weirdly into it, cheering them on like it's the best thing they've ever seen. Squidward's basking in the glory for the first time ever, finally feeling like a star. He can put up with SpongeBob if it means eternal attention. There's another challenge for the therapist. But just as Squidward's enjoying his freaky fame, Sandy rolls in with the fix. Squidward tries to stop her, but nope. She separates them, and the crowd is immediately disgusted by his solo clarinet skills. He sucks. They all storm off, leaving Squidward's one shot at fame in the dirt. But then it gets worse. Squidward, desperate, tries to reverse the machine to fuse them again, because apparently that's all he wants out of life now, and accidentally merges everyone left in the room into one grotesque flesh blob. The episode actually ends with Squidward in therapy, finally, explaining that his problem started when he was born. And we close out with this horrifying image of Squidward, SpongeBob, Patrick, Sandy, and the gang fused together in the ultimate nightmare scenario. Honestly, that last image might be enough to keep him in therapy for decades to come. Hopefully they have a TV so he can see himself in our next episode, House Fancy, in which Squidward spirals out of pure, unfiltered jealousy. Alright, so the episode kicks off with Squidward being all hyped to watch his favorite bougie TV show, House Fancy. He's just about to settle in when his nemesis, Squilliam Fancyson, calls him just to rub it in his face that he is the guest on today's episode. That jerk. Handsome, but still a jerk. Squidward's already fuming when he sees Squilliam flaunting his ridiculous mansion on TV. This dude's got an elevator with a hot tub, toilets with golden toilet paper holders, a rooftop garden, and get this, a 130-foot sculpture of his unibrow made of gilded doorknobs. Like, come on, only 130 feet? What are you, a millionaire? Pathetic. Anyway, Squidward's so fed up with Squilliam's showboating that he loses his mind and calls the show, claiming his house is way fancier. Nicholas, the host, is like, "All right, Squidward, you've got 2 hours to get ready." 2 hours? And that's when Squidward realizes he's royally screwed. Little house and tries everything to make it fancier, but it's a disaster from the start. He doesn't even have time to shower, and he's scrambling. And who shows up outside his window? SpongeBob. This idiot's been spying on Squidward for days, including watching him watch House Fancy. Okay, super creepy, not helpful. Yeah, sounds like SpongeBob. Desperate, Squidward lets SpongeBob help, which, by the way, is clearly a cry for help psychologically, especially because SpongeBob's brain is on loan to Patrick for the weekend, apparently in exchange for a couple of chocolate bars. Let's not dig into that one. But every task Squidward gives him turns into a mess. SpongeBob even manages to hurt Squidward's foot in the process. It is not going well. Things hit rock bottom when SpongeBob decides to clean up with the vacuum. Of course, he cranks the power to the max, and the damn thing goes berserk, sucking up everything in Squidward's living room, including SpongeBob himself. Again, usually a good thing for Squidward, not today. While Squidward's losing his mind trying to handle this chaos, the doorbell rings, but it's not Nicholas, it's Patrick. Oh, well, that's better. He just wants to use Squidward's bathroom, which somehow causes the toilet to come to life, jump into Squidward's arms, and die on the spot. Meanwhile, SpongeBob's brain gets sucked into the vacuum, but at least he finds it in the vacuum bag while munching on those chocolate bars. But then, because nothing can ever go right for Squidward, the vacuum reaches full capacity and blows up, completely destroying his house. Squidward's freaking out, but when Nicholas and Squilliam arrive, Nicholas declares the wreckage abstract art. He's so impressed that he crowns Squidward as the House Fancy Prince of the Year right in front of Squilliam's dumbfounded face. Well, that's a surprise. Squilliam's crushed, Squidward's finally basking in glory, and SpongeBob, ever clueless, tries to cheer up Squilliam by giving him some redecorating advice. Well, I guess at least Squidward knows where to find his furniture, but not the case for Mr. Krabs in The Lost Mattress, after Squidward's attempt to get praise and rewards leads to total chaos. So SpongeBob and Squidward show up late to the Krusty Krab, but the place isn't even open yet. Squidward's like, whatever, but SpongeBob's losing his damn mind about it, like always. Then Mr. Krabs stumbles in all cranky and hunched over because his back is screwed from sleeping on some ancient lumpy-ass mattress. He's in agony, describing it as,
It's like trying to sleep on broken coral.
SpongeBob suggests they buy him a new one, but Squidward nopes out of that real fast because he has some sort of life, apparently, leaving SpongeBob to recruit Patrick to help. So SpongeBob and Patrick hit up this giant mattress emporium, testing every damn mattress in the place until they finally pick one for Krabs. They even make a card for him, but Squidward swoops in at the last second to sign it like he's done all the work, thinking he's about to get some sweet reward like a pay rise or a promotion. But when they surprise Krabs with the new mattress, Squidward drops the bomb. He tossed the old mattress in the dump. That's when Krabs absolutely loses it. Turns out the guy was hoarding all his cash in that lumpy-ass mattress.
Haven't you ever heard of a bank?
Who does that? Oh, right, money-hungry Crab. Suddenly, Krabs straight up collapses into a cash coma and ends up in the hospital. Now the doctor's saying the only thing that'll save Krabs is getting his mattress, and his cash, back, which doesn't sound like reliable medical advice. Squidward's still trying to throw SpongeBob under the bus, but the cop's holding the card that says, "This was all my idea, love Squidward," so yeah, it's all on him now. The cop even says Squidward's going to jail if Krabs dies, so now he's panicking and has to help SpongeBob and Patrick recover the mattress. He wouldn't last in prison. So they go to the dump, but there's this giant vicious guard worm asleep on top of it. Squidward's like, "Don't wake the damn worm," but naturally he screws up and wakes it anyway, getting his ass handed to him in the process. That'll be tricky to explain to the doctors. Meanwhile, Mr. Krabs is in the hospital, but since the dude doesn't have insurance, shocker, they boot him out to the sidewalk. And eventually the hospital administrator believes he's giving the hospital a bad reputation and pushes him down a hill. That's modern medicine for ya! Back at the dump, Squidward's got SpongeBob and Patrick distracting the worm while he tries to grab the mattress, but guess what? SpongeBob, holding up a wooden spoon, unintentionally tames the beast. Squidward tries to steal it, throws the spoon, and bam, the worm wrecks him again. That's worm PTSD. A therapist could help. Then, Mr. Krabs, just rolling downhill like a maniac on his hospital bed, crashes into the dump and lands perfectly on his old mattress. The guy springs back to life, tosses the worm aside like it's nothing, and all is right in Krabs' world again. Meanwhile, Squidward's still getting chased by that pissed-off worm as the episode wraps up, but he will definitely have to talk through this one. Maybe then he'll be able to become a whole new person, a better version of himself. Like the version of himself we meet in Breath of Fresh Squidward, where he's shocked into unlocking a different, nicer version of himself. The episode kicks off with Squidward just trying to enjoy a good night's sleep. But nope, there's SpongeBob and Patrick in his bedroom talking about dip with no chips like it's all totally normal. Squidward flips out, asking why the hell they're even in his house, let alone at this time of the morning. Turns out these clowns have been sneaking in at 3:47 a.m. every morning to celebrate random holidays like Easter and Valentine's Day with him, without his consent. Squidward's brain just goes into meltdown mode, again triggered by these two. His happy gland basically retreats and hides like it's witnessing a train wreck. Bro ends up with the flu from the stress. Fast forward a few hours and Squidward is installing an electric fence to keep those two morons out of his house. He eventually tricks them into sitting on a catapult and launches them the hell out of his yard, which actually is a pretty clever bit of assault. But of course, they land right back inside and have the nerve to ask to be catapulted again. Squidward's at his wit's end now, and while opening the fence, he shocks himself almost to death. But the world is not done punishing Squidward, so he, unfortunately for him, survives. However, his stormy brain clears, and now this squid's all sunshine and rainbows, which is creepy, not gonna lie. So SpongeBob and Patrick are heading to a petting zoo, and Squidward, now weirdly nice, asks to tag along. They're freaked out, but agree. The next morning, Squidward's on a whole new level of nice. He wakes SpongeBob up, flosses his teeth, turns his newspaper pages. Dude's acting like SpongeBob's personal butler. SpongeBob's just like, "What the hell is happening?" At work, Squidward struts into the kitchen to help SpongeBob with his job. SpongeBob's all, "No, this is my thing." Suddenly, Squidward is out front giving out free hats, asking if anyone needs refills, and being all nice to the customers. Mr. Krabs is flipping out because obviously he hates when anything is free, but Squidward is suddenly going through a midlife crisis or something. Squidward even starts making Krabby Patties, and they're actually decent. SpongeBob's pissed, like, "No way can you be a fry cook! This takes years of practice!" But Krabs sees Squidward's smiley ketchup patties and makes him a fry cook and the new employee of the month. So now SpongeBob's losing it, just like Squidward always is. Even Patrick shows up with a cake, and SpongeBob has to erase his own name and slap Squidward's on it. That's gotta sting. Later at Patrick's place, they throw a whole party for Squidward, and SpongeBob's fuming when he sees Squidward pogo dancing with Patrick. He yells at Squidward, hurts his feelings, and kicks him out of the party. Squidward sadly walks home, tries to go inside, and shocks himself again on his stupid fence. SpongeBob eventually apologizes, but slaps Squidward's hand, causing them both to get shocked again. Patrick joins in too, because of course he does, saying he wants to dance funny too. The electric fence blows up, shocking them all back to how things were. Only it doesn't, because now SpongeBob and Patrick are talking and acting just like Squidward. The three of them start bickering in that angry Squidward tone we love so much. Well, some of us love, I guess. Still, I guess enough people love it for him to try and coach Patrick into being a snobby narcissist like him in Squidward's School for Grown-Ups. So SpongeBob and Patrick, being their usual goofy selves, decide to start a game called Boat Screaming. Yeah, they just yell at cars driving by like lunatics, which of course pisses off Squidward and some random drivers. Then out of nowhere, Patrick falls asleep mid-scream, and when he wakes up, he's got a full beard. Squidward sees this and suddenly decides he's the perfect guy to teach Patrick how to be a mature adult. Yeah, because Squidward's the epitome of mature and fun, right? Anyway, SpongeBob's immediately bummed. He's convinced Squidward's basically kidnapped Patrick and brainwashed him into becoming his boring little sidekick. Determined not to lose his best bud to the dark side of adulthood, SpongeBob vows to tag along and learn maturity too. But he's suspicious the whole time. If Squidward likes it, it cannot be good. First up, Squidward drags them into his house for a grown-up makeover. SpongeBob tries to show off his new mature look, and Patrick's digging it, until Squidward tells him it's not serious enough. Then they head to this fancy men's club, which is not a strip club for the record, while Squidward and Patrick order some bougie dish called tetrazzini. SpongeBob's like, "I'll take a milk and cookies, thanks." The guy's not even trying to be anything but a baby. They hit the art museum next, and Squidward's just had enough of SpongeBob following them around. He gets security to throw him out. At first, they're nice about it, but SpongeBob won't leave, so he gets booted. Hard. So now SpongeBob's scheming again, realizing the beard's not just making Patrick boring, it's the key to this whole mess. He tries to pull it off, but Squidward blocks him, saying they're done with SpongeBob for good. Patrick is his bestie now, and I'm seriously worried about Squidward's mental state. Finally, Squidward takes Patrick to an opera. SpongeBob, refusing to give up, disguises himself as an opera singer and belts out a dramatic song to save Patrick. And it actually works! Patrick gets all teary-eyed, and guess what? The beard's not a beard, it's a hibernating sea urchin. Okay, gross. It wakes up from Patrick's crying, jumps off his face, and scurries away, breaking Patrick's so-called maturity spell. Patrick starts chasing the urchin like a lunatic while SpongeBob explains the whole thing to him. Patrick's confused, asking how the opera singer knows his name, but SpongeBob reveals himself, they hug it out, and that's it. Squidward, he's pissed obviously, and tries to convince the opera crowd that these shows sucked. But nah, they loved it and pelt him with food. Well, it wouldn't be a Squidward episode if it didn't end with him being assaulted. But hey, I'm just a guy who likes cartoons, so I'll return to my shows. I'll catch you in the next video.